In a world where nostalgia rages across the land, where everyone and their mother has a podcast, where there's still a movie trailer guy who says, in a world, three friends revisit films, shows, and games that molded them as they search for answers to life, the universe, and everything in between. Settle in and join us for Screen Refresh.
Okay, and welcome to Screen Refresh, Episode 3 or Episode 2, depending on if we ever end up using that first intro episode. As we usually come into the episode, we have our host, that is all three of us. On the East Coast, we have Nick Rivera.
Hello there.
We have myself, Tim Fenoya. Hello there. And on the far, far West Coast, we have our dearest Dean Fisher.
That's me. You said my name. It's my turn to talk.
That means I have power over you. So I know last week we didn't really land on what episode we were going to be doing. I think it might have been a couple of things thrown out there. We had a list. We had all sorts of things. So in the interim, in all of that kind of nebulous week-long or month-long, seeing as you can't really tell how long it's been since we recorded, we made the decision that Dean wanted to take a look at Little Monsters from 1989. So it is going to be a ride. Dean, I will let you drive if that's the case.
Dean, what did you make me watch?
Look, I thought we were watching Monsters, Inc.
Oh, yeah.
I watched Monsters, Inc.
I see a lot of the similarities.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Yeah, it's the same movie.
I mean, I can, at first I was like, oh, this is like Proto Monsters, Inc. And then all of a sudden, halfway through, I was like, this is more like Clive Barker's Nightbreed than Monsters, Inc.
I don't think you could say this is not inspired, or it did not inspire Monsters, Inc. I mean,
some trivia says
obviously
it was, but
Monsters, Inc. is a. You're sorry?
Some trivia said it was, but I don't believe this inspired it, because I mean, this is just way out of left field. I mean,
the basic premise is the same. It's just Disney made a much better movie out of the idea. It was originally released all the way back in 1989 in the month of August. And when looking this up, I think I saw this on VHS, not in a theater, and I found out why I would not have even had the choice to see it in a theater, because it was kind of coming out and sold during a financially difficult period for the distributor or financiers who made the movie. And it was only released on 179 screens, 179 theaters. And in 1989, there's probably like 5,000 theaters, at least nationally. So this really got screwed at the box office.
And all of those theater screens were playing Batman at the time.
Right.
Seems just like 1 month later.
Yeah. I mean, earlier in August, there was The Abyss, Uncle Buck, Parenthood, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which is more of an indie darling movie. Very good. The Adventures of Milo and Otis, I think, would have been the competition for this.
Oh, you mean Koneko Monogatari?
Yes.
I saw how much that movie took in, and it like blew everything else out of the water that I was looking at around it. And it's that Adventures of Milo and Otis is the one that crushed August 1989.
And people were just, they love animals. These ones don't talk, unlike Homeward Bound. They're just, it was narrated. Oh yeah, who narrated Milo and Otis? I forget.
I've actually never seen it.
It was Dudley Moore. I think Dudley Moore narrated it. I think.
Don't hold him.
We're not going to go back and correct this. So if it's wrong, oh well.
So I had to look this up as I was watching, because this is further in my notes, but it's applicable now. That I saw Beetlejuice a lot in Howie Mandel's performance in this movie. And the whole time, I actually had to stop. Like in the beginning, I had to stop and look up when Beetlejuice came out versus this movie. And Beetlejuice came out just the year before, because Howie Mandel was like the kid version of Beetlejuice this whole time.
I felt like it was as if they wanted to hire Robin Williams to do Beetlejuice. That's Howie Mandel's monster in this to me. They wanted, from the Aladdin hadn't come out, but it's like just a insane Robin Williams energy, but he doesn't make much sense, and he's not very good, and he's not as good as Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice, that's for sure.
You know, also that Howie Mandel is 65.
Really?
Currently?
Yeah. Yes, I looked that up while doing some research, and like he doesn't look like it at all.
Yeah, he looks great.
So he's almost as old as Rob Schneider in Surf Ninjas.
So this was the director's Richard Allen Greenberg. This was his first time narrative feature, and it's his only directing credit other than a documentary he did like years later. But based on his other credits, it looks like he was mainly doing opening title design and just visual effects consulting on some fairly big movies. But yeah, directing was not his forte, it looks like. I don't know how he got the go ahead to
because he did
get Little Monsters going. He
probably ended up getting this in because of his visual effects work. Because I mean, coming from like Predator, Lady Hawk,
right? There is a couple transformation scenes. Yeah. I mean, I could see why, but
I didn't research this because I figured it'd make better conversation. Is this based on anything?
No,
I don't think so.
Completely his own thing.
Well, it's the writers. Like, I guess he just directed it, but he wasn't like in the creative process as far as writing for it. That was Terry Rosso and Ted Elliott.
I will say, like, halfway through, I was just starting to wonder, like, what's the point of all this?
Yeah.
Because it really felt more like a skit movie with no actual plot until, like, say maybe like the last 20 minutes where, like, oh shit, there's a bad guy now.
Yeah, there's not much to it. And there's a lot that doesn't make sense. We'll get into that once we start going through the movie. But another interesting thing I saw was the writers. This was one of Terry Rossio's first writing credit on a feature. And then Ted Elliott, they seemed like they became writing partners, and they wrote Aladdin after this. Like, they went on to be like Disney powerhouse writers. So I don't know how this movie was a springboard for them somehow. I don't know, but
yeah, the Renaissance happened right after this.
Yeah,
they got into like the Pirates of the Caribbean and Shrek. They were big Shrek writers. Like
Small Soldiers, Road to El Dorado.
They did a lot of stuff.
They're going to be doing Godzilla vs. Kong coming up.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, they're still going. Still got careers.
Yeah.
This didn't throw them off.
Yeah. So, I mean, they probably, working with Howie Mandel on this, figured, like, next thing we write, they do Aladdin, and then they get Robin Williams for the genie.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't see Robin Williams in any of this during his performance. I really saw Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice.
Oh, 100%. It's Beetlejuice. Like, the Robin Williams comparison, I think, is just, like, the manic, all over the place.
Yes.
Like, it seems very unscripted in parts.
I debated only because at the time he wasn't really a thing yet.
Who, Robin Williams?
Yeah.
I mean, Mork and Mindy, he was crazy alien.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he'd been doing his bit since, like, what, 70s? At that point?
Yeah, I mean, his stand-up was very, like, super energetic like that, too.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's plenty of others, too. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm still favoring over Beetlejuice over him, only because it's just like...
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. It's definitely Beetlejuice.
And this is Fred Savage and his brother's first credit. Ben Savage plays his actual brother in the movie.
Yeah, they played well together throughout this.
Yeah, I guess you can really feel the real familial connections.
And, like, it makes sense casting-wise how they all got linked together anyway. Because it's like, okay, so Ben and Fred, brothers, and then Fred and Daniel Stern worked together on Wonder Years, and then the mother worked together with Ben Savage on Big Girls Don't Cry, They Get Even.
They created their own Brat Pack of weird ages and were not nearly as popular.
Just a couple of savages.
Yeah, this movie got it got the shaft at release. I don't think it would have made a lot of movie regardless. It made 528,000 and then a total of 1.6 million adjusted for inflation.
I think it'll really shine when it gets picked up by the Criterion Collection.
I saw it on TV growing up. It was definitely not a theatrical thing.
Yeah, it must have been rented or recorded from HBO. I don't know, something. It's just one of those distant child memories.
And that's one hell of a movie to watch as a kid.
This kind of goes
jokes in this that are like my jaw drop. Like, this shit would never be made today.
Yeah, it kind of goes with our last episode on Surf Ninjas. There's, even though that was from the 90s, there's still kind of a bite to these kids movies from 20 years ago, 30 years ago that wouldn't cut the mustard today.
I mean, this one especially. There were a couple times where I had to say out loud, like, this is PG.
It's dark.
Minor segue, at least the new Kevin Smith made his new like reboot for Jay and Silent Bob. And I hadn't seen any of the rest of his movies in ages, except for like Clerks. But even watching like Mallrats and Chasing Amy, just the context of a movie made in the 90s, I don't think could be made today. With just the way that it handles certain subject matter, especially like Chasing Amy, like that whole time I'm watching it, like there are scenes where like people wouldn't dare say those things, even in a movie that's a comedy, or even poking fun at it. Like it's just too controversial and subject matter being way too dark that I don't think they even make them like they used to anymore. People are almost afraid to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like I'll never see like Rick Ducommun at any point rip a child's head off again in a film that's geared towards 12-year-olds.
Yeah, that was surprising.
But we'll get to that one.
So yeah, let's dive right in. The opening of Little Monsters. It has there's like a pleasant, happy like piano score like going. It doesn't really set the correct tone, I don't think.
Yeah,
it's like happy suburbia.
I've never had any experience with this movie. So when it opened and kind of faded in with like that somber black and white opening, and then doing the narration over the top, talking about I thought it was going to be more like kind of a fun little coming of age thing. Because it reminded me of like the opening to like Something Wicked This Way Comes or Silver Bullet, where you have them narrating over the top, and it's going to kind of ease our way in, and that did not set me up for the rest of this.
I had Sandlot vibes in the beginning.
Yeah, yes, that too.
Yeah. It doesn't really set the tone for the movie. It's just kind of really misplaced. It's like, just told the composer, let's just write something happy and put it in there. I don't give a shit.
It's probably like it just to set it like, this kid from Wonder Years.
And him from the future, his dad, Daniel Stern. Yeah, Daniel Stern plays the father. Future Fred Savage, kind of that was future. Wonder Years came out before this movie, or was it after?
I believe
he was
about
before. The same age.
Yeah, I want to say it was before. And Daniel Stern did the voice.
Fred Savage, we meet him. He's sneaking downstairs to watch Skinamax. Late night, some weird talk show with like a woman in a bikini. That was the first thing I saw that I was like, okay, this is going to be another like for kids, but not for kids kind of movie.
Yeah. Are we passing the onion and peanut butter sandwich?
No. I was just circling around. It has got to be the strangest combination I have ever seen in my life.
It immediately made him unrelatable for the rest of the film.
Brian, Arthur Stevenson, you are the only person in this family who eats peanut butter and onion sandwiches.
I looked it up, and apparently, like, this is, like, it's like recipes.com, and like people are like, oh, you have to eat one of these. It's so weird, but it's so good.
Like Binging with Babish does Little Monsters.
I think I have an onion, and I might make one later on to try in the podcast. I forgot to prepare it, but I think I want to just eat it live and just to and give my thoughts on that crazy concoction.
I'd rather eat one of Michelangelo's pizzas from the Turtles cartoon. Because at least there, it's outlandish. Fred Savage is really the little monster in this movie, not Howie Mandel.
Yeah, it's a metaphor.
I think we'll find that Daniel Stern's the real monster of this film.
So Fred eats his heinous concoction, watches Skinamax, and we realize that...
Did you catch on when he's watching the talk show that the guest is Rick DeCommon, who eventually ends up playing Snick later?
Oh, that's the host, or it was just the woman.
Yeah, and then
it was the woman, and then the dude host. Was that Rick?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know. I did not recognize him. When I saw him later on as the monster, his voice, I was like, I didn't know his name, but I knew who it was, and that. It's funny, I recognized him through the makeup, but not as a human on television.
I just always remember him from The Burbs and Die Hard. Or Blank Check. I forgot he was in Blank Check.
Oh yeah, that might come up later on in our series sometime. Yeah, so Fred's real life brother, Ben Savage, says there's a monster under the bed.
This is no joke, Dad. There was a real monster.
Really? Honey, there's no such thing as monsters.
It ran in from the hall, grabbed my ankle, and slid under my bed.
Instead, it's just a pair of used child underwear. Yeah, so we kind of fade to the next day. Breakfast, another breakfast scene. It's very popular to start with breakfast in kids' movies with the family.
Yeah, plus the fact that they never end up finishing them.
Right. There's always a beautiful spread, and somebody has a bite of toast and they run out the door.
Yeah.
Like mom was like,
asks if did you do your homework? And then they get in a fight. Breakfast homework fight.
Only real listeners of episode 2 will get that. So here we get the first sampling of what these monsters do in this world, though we don't know if there's any monsters involved yet. Dad opens the cabinet to find ice cream, which is a very strange prank. These monsters pull pranks. It's kind of like they're living, but you just put ice cream in a cabinet, and it's set up to fall out of the cabinet and just make a mess. And Dad's mad. And
you're dead, mister.
Hey, I didn't do anything.
Just like the sandwich?
All right, fine. I admit it. I did have a sandwich, but I did not have any ice cream. Why do you always blame everything on me?
Yeah, what's their end game here?
Further reinforce why I don't want kids.
Because it's how do you monetize this monster pranking unless it's just done solely for enjoyment and nothing else?
Watching it, that was my whole thing. I was kind of lost interest in the movie itself, and I was trying to figure out and deconstruct why the hell they're doing this.
Yeah, because it's
I think it is just for the sheer enjoyment of just causing havoc and just making people's lives miserable.
Yeah, it's not like Monsters, Inc., where we do it to get the screams to power our engines, or it's not like, well, actually, Nightbreed, they didn't do anything. They hid from people. But yeah, this one, it's just, they just do it to do it.
I'll have to check out Nightbreed to see these similarities to that.
Nightbreed is a treat all itself. It's essentially just it feels like an adult version of Little Monsters, and it has a bunch of cool monster effects, and it also has David Cronenberg as one of the main characters in it as a villain. So it's kind of fun.
I'll put that on my quarantine watch list. Right after breakfast, Dad runs over Brian's bike, which is laying directly behind his car. Dad, I didn't put it there. Yeah, Daniel Stern gets really pissed. It's
0 to 100.
My bike! You ran over it!
My car. Whose fault is this, Brian? You're grounded for 2 weeks. No TV for 3, and you can forget about your allowance till that car is paid up.
Len, isn't that a little rough?
Holly, don't make me the villain here.
Yeah, because it's Homer levels of the ice cream falls out and he's just ready to strangle the kid.
Yeah.
And that's
I kind of relate to Howard or Daniel Stern in this.
You don't even have kids.
Only because I can imagine, the guy is on the end of his ropes with a dead end shitty job. Wife wants to divorce him. He's just trying to relax. on the days that he finally has a minute. And then he's got these kids that are putting fucking ice cream in cabinets and like leaving food to rot on the couch overnight. And then he's already late to work because of the ice cream crap. And now he runs over the kid's bike because he knows he's going to have to pay for a new one because clearly the kid's not going to be able to buy another one. And he's just done. He's just done.
I mean, I guess
I think like he'll get fired. He gets a divorce and then he falls on tough times, moves to Chicago. And then that's when he meets up with that guy, Harry.
Yeah. They form the Wet Bandits.
Yeah, I really feel this whole thing is the same continuity.
I mean, I guess taking into consideration the fact that, yeah, we know monsters exist in this. He doesn't know. So to him, it's just he has terrible kids. So I guess I give him a pass. Also, like, this new house they moved into is falling apart.
Fixer-upper.
Yeah.
Well, picking right up from breakfast, this is just like a day in the life of Brian. We get on the school bus. And before that, we meet Ben Savage's friend. His name is Todd, really cementing this movie to the 80s.
So, this is an exclusively under the bed phenomenon we're dealing with here. Look, Todd, I never would have told you about this, but okay.
Nobody's naming their kid Todd. It puts you in the 80s if your kid is named Todd.
It's more of a derogatory name. Every time I think of it in movies and stuff, it's never a good guy.
He's always an a-hole.
I'm trying to think of one movie where the hero is Todd.
This is it.
I guess so.
The minor character turned hero.
I apologize for any listeners that are named Todd. You just don't have proper media association and representation.
Well, I don't think anybody's been represented as poorly as school bus bully in every single film.
That's another classic.
I looked at the kid and I was like,
archetype coming up.
This kid looks like the love child of Biff and Buzz. And then I realized later that it is Buzz.
It is Buzz.
Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof.
Yeah, they get on the school bus. Buzz shows up and he promptly gets humiliated. Like, usually that doesn't happen. Like, it's usually established the bully as like he's pushing kids down, stealing their lunch money. But he gets what gets dumped on him? Somebody's lunch.
Who's Eric? Who's the Eric who threw his lunch at me?
So if anything, actually, he's the victim there. He's not the aggressor. So that means Brian is the bully.
He is an aggressor. He didn't start it.
He just finished it.
A lunch got thrown out the window and hit him in the head. And he comes in to find out who's responsible and ends up getting humiliated. The bus driver slams on the brakes. He falls down.
Get back in your seats or I'll destroy every one of you!
You get me, Stevenson!
He runs away with his tail between his legs, kind of, but he's still threatening the kids to beat him up later. And it pretty much goes right into that. They get to school and he wastes no time.
He wastes no time. Which I love how, like, as soon as he walks up, they get into the argument, and as soon as he goes to reach his hand out, that one kid in the tie-dye next to him just drops his books and yells fight, and it's like, nothing's happened yet.
That's the last thing I do today. I'm gonna make you eat this shirt.
Listen, Coleman, I'm surprised you haven't eaten it already.
You saw Buzz coming in, he could just tell by the swagger that there was going to be a fight that morning.
You could smell it in the air like rain before a storm.
Maybe he's that kid that's always like doing the slow clap, hoping for it to catch on, and just anytime he senses any tension, he's just like fight. Doesn't always happen, but he's always waiting, and just today was his day.
They just don't have the time to show us all of those scenes of him just like standing at the water fountain, standing in the cafeteria. Two kids walk up to a urinal and he just shouts.
There's a whole other movie in there with him, like him setting up fights and getting people to fight each other. So the principal comes and breaks up this fight, and he's like really hard on Brian, who's the new kid, and he absolutely must know that Buzz is like a shithead, like,
yeah,
and probably had something more to do with this. Yet he's just like brushes Buzz off and goes after Brian for like fighting.
What is going on here?
Sir, I was just showing Brian what he did to my shirt, and he pushed me away.
Oh, come on!
Stevenson, you're new here, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think we better have a little talk. In my office, you have rules to learn.
Doodles, bride.
I mean, it's prison rules. He has to just break the kid down immediately. I mean, then he meets Kirsten, so it works out for him at least.
And they get way too flirty, like
immediately.
What's Fred, like 11 years old in this? And he's like a Lothario, like with his one-liners and walking away with his hands in his pocket. It's almost like an adult really wrote cool.
Yeah. It's almost like two adults wrote his dialogue.
Like, how did he have that much confidence? Like, it just, at 11 years old, I don't buy it.
Yeah, yet he still eats those onion and peanut butter sandwiches.
It's like, I know you hired, he's a child actor and he's supposed to be able to be suave, but that's not this kid. Oh, we glossed over this.
The montage?
He's makes like Rube Goldberg devices, like kind of like the opening to Back to the Future.
Yeah, that's why it took me out of the movie a bit, because you mean to tell me this kid has knows engineering to the degree of all of these contraptions and stuff, but he's skating by on a science project? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, he is part of the Army Corps of Engineers in this film.
Yeah, and we'll get to that later, but that was the only setup to that he's got some kind of engineering skill or know-how.
In the beginning, blink and you miss it. I remember seeing one contraption with an alarm clock. It's always an alarm clock where...
That's what I mean. That was the only one. That was in the opening.
Yeah.
That night, so the beginning of the movie, Ben says there's a monster under his bed. That night after school, Ben Savage gets Fred to stay in his room so he can experience the monster for himself.
Well, he gets paid.
Right. Wait, what did they pay
incentive
him?
Money.
I double dare you to switch rooms. You guys take a hike. I'll pay you.
It was straight money. Was it like allowance?
Money.
Allowance?
Eric's 7 maybe? How much money does he really have to be buying him off?
Well, a couple cents goes a lot farther back then.
That's true. With inflation, it was probably
he's been saving up for a Pontiac GM for when he gets his driver's license.
Yeah, because he gets paid off to do it, and then they're telling ghost stories, which that kid's story that he says is phenomenally incredible is not.
Very subpar horror
Very
story.
subpar. It was almost like it was written by the writers of Shrek.
Well, for an 8-year-old kid, I give him some credit. I would have been spooked.
That's true. I mean, it was a bit rough compared to what I was expecting for kid stories.
Fred Savage goes down to scare them by banging on the other side of the wall to spook them. And when he returns to his brother's bed, where the monsters supposedly are, the light in the closet, it's glowing. There's some kind of light. He opens the closet door to find a TV on its side, playing a Vincent Price, what Spider movie?
Fly.
Do you know what
The
movie
Fly.
that was? Oh, it was The Fly. First of all, who stores their old tube television on their side like that? That took me out of the movie. I turned it off. I didn't go back to it for another week. I didn't believe it.
No, I thought it wasn't that they had it stored in there like that. It was he had taken it and brought it in, and then when he got caught, it was on its side. But knowing the rest of this movie, yeah, they just stored it,
just an oversight,
plugged in on its side in there.
Set designers just put it in there.
It's one of those Joker, do I look like a guy with a plan motif? Because for him to go out and do all of this stuff, you would have to imagine the planning behind it. Him picking up the TV, moving it, putting it on its side, finding the movie, putting it, making sure he captures it at the right time so that when the kid walks in, it's the scene that he's hoping to see it in, and too much planning.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Howie Mandel, and he is a creature of chaos in this movie. I don't think he really had this planned out at all.
I'll put the movie on its side and play Vincent Price.
I'm surprised he played this one instead of the Jeff Goldblum one. I'm pretty sure that came out by this point.
Too expensive. Too expensive to get the rights. So that's pretty much the end of Fred's night, because he sleeps on the couch, and after that, obviously very creeped out. And then we get into, we need a montage. We're gonna need a montage, because he's gonna go at it again, and he's going to capture the damn monster this time.
Looks like you got two weird phenomenons in your house. A monster and a giant chicken. Double or nothing.
Okay, sure. So that means Eric has enough money to double whatever he was going to pay before.
Kid's holding out.
You'll get $1.50 instead of 75 cents. That even might have been too much for 1989's 7-year-old allowance standards.
For some reason in my head, I thought he gave an actual number when he says, like, I'll give you X amount. And I remember it being high, but I mean, that could just be my brain adding more to this film than it gives.
Yeah, probably. You're needing to add more substance to the movie. So yeah, there's a montage. We see Fred Savage's engineering genius at work, even more so than the alarm clock that we saw at the beginning. He's rigs the bed to essentially be one of those kind of pull traps. He set up a stick and a box and pull the stick once the animal gets underneath. Essentially the same thing, because he realizes the monster's safe home is under the bed, and if he locks him out, then he can't go anywhere.
And clearly they can be baited with Doritos.
Yeah.
Because that must be the buy-in for this film.
I think they tried to cash in on like how Reese's did with E.T., and I doubt it worked out the same way.
Disgusting monsters love Cool Ranch.
Yeah, he leaves a trail of Doritos for Howie Mandel's character, Monster, to be baited by.
It was in Howie Mandel's rider. He only will do this film if he has Doritos as one of the main function points.
And I get to actually eat the Doritos every scene.
Oh, just in the background? No, they have to be the focal point. They have to be part of the plot.
Where's the close-up of my mouth eating the Doritos? Yeah, I guess for his... So he was too scared to sleep in the room, yet his plan is to cut off the monster's escape route and be trapped inside the room with the monster.
Well, his other plan was he had a gun with one bullet left.
It's for me, not for you.
I feel like all the traps he's setting up are going to give Daniel Stern flashbacks.
So, what is this note here? Sorry, I'll cut this out. The clothes throwing him got me. Fred is trying to murder this monster.
Yeah, because he falls down into like clothes to hide, and then the clothes themselves start throwing him around and jumping around.
Yeah.
Which, sure. I mean, also the fact that his trap is to drop the bed, so he's sawing off the legs, but that means how high was his bed already that he's able to do that to it? Because when he was sawing it off, it already looked like his bed was like 1.5 feet off the ground with those legs.
What you didn't see off screen is a trampoline that the kids used to get into bed.
Or
yeah, that's a good point.
The desk and sofa that he left underneath it, like a college dorm.
Right.
Like a loft bed.
So yeah, he's wrestling like the clothes.
Yeah, I think he hits the trap on the bed, it shuts it, and then the loud noise, which makes sense because that's a bed falling 1.5 feet in the air down to the ground, is going to make a loud ass noise. Dad comes rushing in, turns on the lights.
Dad, wait a minute. There was a monster here. You gotta believe me.
A monster, Brian. It's a pile of clothes. You're wrestling a pile of clothes.
And that's when he disappears into the clothes.
Also, I love how Daniel Stern opens the door and steps on the Doritos, and he does, what the hell am I stepping on?
We're PG, Daniel.
We don't know how you do it over on the Home Alone set, but we're PG here.
Right. Dad interrupts, and we realize that he can just disappear into his clothing shrink down or disappear. Just
I thought it was the lights, because later he's like, the lights are starting to make him dissolve. I thought he dissolved from that, but it's like, if you're dissolved and you're still able as clothes to throw a kid around and run around, then I don't really think you're getting destroyed.
So, yeah, Dad leaves and monster comes back out. Reminiscent again of kind of what Nick was saying about Beetlejuice. His eyes popping out. The monster pops his eyes out at Fred Savage, and I was just like, that would be scared me shitless. And he's just kind of like, he just looks surprised. He's not terrified. He doesn't scream. He's just like, oh, that would scare the shit out of me.
Boo. Keep an eye out for monsters.
The first meeting, I didn't trust him at all. I was really waiting for like the bait and switch thing. Like, all right, when is he going to go off the deep end and be really creepy or crazy? And he never fully went that way. It was just complete like, hey, let's do mischief. The whole time I'm like, all right, what's the motive? You want to eat his soul? Do you want to kill him? Do you want to replace him? And no, just you just want to be bad kids for a night? Oh, okay.
Yeah, like really, he was just kind of a dick. Like the whole time I was like, once he got introduced, it's this guy, I'm already over him.
Now scream.
Scream! Got an idea! You know what? You scream, your dad's gonna come in here with a 12-gauge shotgun, blow your head off. Actually, I'll scream. Actually, your dad's gonna come in here and find Dorito puke all over the floor. What's he gonna say, huh? Wow! Baseball cards. I love baseball cards. Got him, need him, got him, need him, need him, got him, need him.
I honestly will not be disappointed if he ends up also getting melted at the end of this film, which Brian threatens.
Have you seen this?
I've never seen it until now. Also, I like how Brian, because he damaged his bike, he's completely fine with just burning this guy alive when the sun comes up.
My note literally says I was going to get, Charlie is super cavalier about murdering Maurice.
have to get under the bed before the sun totally rises.
No way. You wrecked my bike. You've been pulling stuff, trying to get me in trouble.
Just sending him to the void.
Although when they're doing the burn thing, like the bladder effects and whatnot were cool. So it's like, you can tell it comes from an effects background. Although I don't know what level of effects he was doing for visual, if it was all his computer or if he was working on anything practical.
Yeah, I'm sure he had a big hand in how that all played out. Yeah, the effect in that regard looked believable. Like, I thought it was pretty good, especially for the time. Without computers. But so Howie Mandel's monster named Maurice,
the gangster of love.
He's just he's on speed, cocaine, any kind of upper. Like he's on and he's never off, and it's exhausting immediately. It's just.
Oh, football! He goes to the 25-yard line, the 50-yard line, the 40-yard line. Stevenson, go for the long bomb. Whoa. Light! The sun! Let me go!
Nothing he says is funny, even though he's laughing at himself.
It's a numbers game.
It's way too much.
If he says 1,000 things, 10 are going to be funny. Except they aren't.
There was an interesting connection. Howie Mandel voices Gizmo in the movie Gremlins, and both of these characters are not friendly with lights. And I think he says bright lights in this movie, which he directly says as Gizmo. So he's typecast as
somebody who hates
agoraphobic. Just doesn't come out of his house.
Yeah, this was after Gremlins.
I have here written that Brian says "damn" very, very quietly. I think once he kills the monster, he's like regrets. It's like, damn. The next day, Dad can't find his remote, which I don't remember has a payoff or not. But it's just a weird little scene thrown in there.
Also, Daniel Stern is watching a Celtics game, which I feel like that pops up a lot.
all over the place. Earlier in the movie, Buzz is wearing like a Red Sox jersey and even a hat. But they mentioned Yankee Stadium for another portion of it. And being in the Northeast, it's either one or the other, buddy. Like, if you're going to represent Boston, you're going to talk about Fenway. You don't give a shit about Yankee Stadium and vice versa, you know?
I mean, unless he's from Connecticut and then he has 50-50 shot at either side.
I don't know. And then it's
be a transplant.
And then, so he was watching the Celtics game. Where is this movie taking place?
I thought Ohio.
No, it's the Northeast somewhere.
New Hampshire?
Not that Northeast, I think.
It must be Massachusetts.
Oh, was it? Might have been Mass.
We'll have to go back because there's that whole scene at the end of the movie where they show, different locations, which we'll get to. Yeah, I don't know where they came from, where they moved from to this new place.
Oh, yeah, it would have to be the far east coast if that's the case, because if they're going left, I remember them running through a couple cities that would have been like just left of east. I mean, I don't think the geography of this is really what's going to bring this down. Also, they did move to suburban Boston, according to...
Right, yeah, I thought it was Massachusetts.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, Dad can't find the remote. He also can't find sandpaper or a paintbrush to help his wife renovate the house.
I think the second one's by choice, though.
I think that might be one of the... So, Nick, you brought up earlier that he's going through divorce. It hasn't been brought up in the movie yet, but knowing that they lead to divorce, you kind of see, like...
Why?
You kind of see why.
He's a terrible spouse in this movie.
Terrible spouse.
That's why, like, at least 7 times in my notes, it's just Daniel Stern's the real monster.
So that night, Maurice comes back and he convinces Brian to come down with him to check out Monsterland under the bed.
Not weird.
He says,
what goes on down there is every kid's fantasy.
Now,
you watch
Charlie is a pubescent boy. And
Brian,
if that was true, this movie would be rated R. If we got down there and it was Charlie's actual fantasy, my fantasies at 11 and 12 years old were not
regular or menthol.
Obviously he's watching Skinamax at the beginning of the movie. You know where his head's at.
Yeah, this whole thing is like something like that inspired Monkey Bone.
Yes, this does give very big Monkey Bone vibes.
You'll have to fill me in. Some other day.
Okay. Join us next week for Monkey Bone.
For Monkey Bone. So we finally get to Monsterland, this world that is accessible via portals under your bed. Now, what I want to know is, couldn't any surface you're sleeping on, if there's an underneath, couldn't it be a bed? I think that question is answered at the end of the movie, but we'll get to that later. But I think, why does it have to be? It's not just beds. Like, it could be the lazy boy downstairs.
This is one of those best not to be broken apart, because anything could be considered a bed. And does it have to have a sleeping resident to be considered a bed? Because like was Fred Savage sleeping during that most recent attempt of Maurice's visit? Because if he was awake, then how does that qualify it as being a bed?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or like an indoor hammock, or like a loft bed where you took the bottom bunk out. Like, where do they come from in that case?
How long would you have to sleep on top of your desk for the monsters to classify it as a bed and start, exiting underneath your desk? I don't know. I wish they would have gotten into that. I want to know more about the portals, but sadly, this movie wasn't made for me.
We should kickstart a second one.
Little Monsters, how do portals work?
Or comic tie-in, 6-issue mini.
So yeah, they get to Monsterland as like a decrepit town made of wood pallets and like filled with creepy drifter monsters.
Yeah.
It's like Monsterland Detroit or something. It's
like if Monsters Inc. had a Skid Row.
That's a perfect description. I feel like every 90% of the monsters are actually children as well.
They were.
But that's kind of a plot point.
The makeup jobs were good though on these. They were fun. And some of them were pretty interesting, kind of creepy for kids stuff.
I also think the current White House administration was catering Monsterland. If you look at the table, it's just like McDonald's cheeseburgers and pizza. Like the craft services table.
Every kid's dream.
Cheeseburgers, pizza, ice cream.
Also, I like how I have it listed, even by Monster standards, Maurice is a schmuck. Like, even other monsters are like, yeah, this guy.
It's like you didn't choose the monster that you became friends with. It's just like he happens to be the loser of the group. He tries to put on a front. He knows everybody. So then, I mean, yeah, he reveals like the monster's MO, which is just to fuck with kids' lives for an unknown reason. They don't get currency. They don't get power like in Monsters, Inc. They just ruin kids' lives, probably causing divorces and.
Well, the thing that's weird is
where they came from and why they're doing it.
He shows them. He walks over to the bug guy, and the bug guy is like passing out jobs or assignments to them.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, if this is all just pro bono, if you're not getting like anti bono, like if this is just all for your own thing, what's the profit structure here? Like, how do they? Or do you just take on an assignment just to take it on, and when you complete it, you just put it back up and say, "There you go, I did it." No reward.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's bedlam.
That's why they're monsters. I guess the definition of a monster somewhere in there is just they like to ruin people's lives.
Well, Brian immediately turns on his fellow man. It's, oh, check this out. I talked to this bug. He gives me a job, says to go fuck with these kids. I'm on board. Let's go.
They ruin lives by pissing into apple juice bottles and
that would never
getting
be
kids
done
to drink it
in a movie today.
Yeah, so they go to Buzz the Bully's house, and like, why? Who better to screw with than your mortal enemy at school? So, yeah, what you have a problem with that, Nick?
I'm more awestruck. Not to mention, too, they didn't even sugarcoat it like it was something else. Like, holy crap, you pissed in his juice. Like, that was their exact words almost.
He turned around, took out his monster dick dangerously close to the 11-year-old.
What are you doing? All right, Maurice, that's great. All right, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, boy, what did you eat today, man?
Ronnie's gonna be pissed.
No kidding.
I wish it was a different color, too. It should have been. That would have been fun if it wasn't. Well, I guess they wouldn't have. The prank wouldn't have worked if it was like green.
Yeah, yeah. Then we have to question Buzz if he looks at it and he's like, meh, okay.
Yeah. So they end their prank fest that night. And then we get treated to like a montage of the weirdest looking children they could cast as their parents yell at them for all these pranks that Maurice and Brian did.
I'm innocent. I'll take a lie detector test. If you didn't do it. Who did? I don't know.
Peter! Do you want to go to military school?
Where did they get those kids? Like, I don't know. They just... There has to be like hundreds and hundreds of kids trying to break into Hollywood, and they just chose the strangest ones. I don't know. I mean, no offense to those kids. We all grow up and usually for the better, look better, but it was just I don't know. It was just really weird.
This is a rough segment.
Apologies to those kids. Let's hope they're not listening to this.
Let's talk about how Howie Mandel and Brian are the monsters here, while we have a segue into Dean shitting on these kids' looks for 8 minutes.
Well, they say one of the tricks into getting into Hollywood for like auditions and stuff is you need to have some kind of like physical appearance that's a bit more unique or that stands out.
That's a good point.
You know, anyone
they probably made that segment more enjoyable, that they were kind of like,
yeah, they all had specific facial
the most handsome kids,
things that stood out, so they, they're more recognizable.
That's a great point. You should be a casting director.
Unlike, this year's edition of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, because they all look the same.
Peter is a saint.
Ew, you watch that?
He's a pilot looking for love.
Oh, I know you're going to justify it. Moving on.
So yeah, the kids get yelled at. We see that this is the monster's ultimate goal, is to have children be screamed at by their parents. We get to school the next day. We're treated to the moment when Buzz drinks the piss apple juice.
Piss! Who put piss in my apple juice?
I guess you'd know the smell of piss for the most part.
Yeah,
but
I was thinking the same thing. How does this kid know
he knew
it's
right
piss?
away that it was piss. Like, is this not the first time this has happened? I mean, it's piss in apple juice, right? So it's like...
No, I think he filled the cup.
Well, also it's because he ate the sandwich and it was like cat food or something in there. And he was like, "Ugh," and then he drank that and it was like, oh.
Right.
Also, I like how he shouts it out like some kid's going to own up to it. "'Twas me, yes. I pissed in your apple juice."
That's a misdemeanor. maybe a felony.
They just have two guys come out, handcuff the kid, drag him away.
So Fred Savage got to go back to Monsterland because he had the time of his life fucking up these kids' lives. Maurice pants him when they get down there, which I, again, thought was a little inappropriate.
Maurice, why'd you do that? Not even my mother sees me in my boxer shorts.
Because, I mean, he's portrayed as like, I mean, he's an adult. He's a monster, but you know it's a dude, like a grown dude in there.
Yeah, there wasn't like a throwaway line that, oh, he's 7 in monster years or something. It's like, no, he's like a 30-year-old adult.
He's like hundreds of years old.
Yeah, yeah, we're that. Even better.
So they're snooping around. They're snooping around Kirsten. Is it Kirsten? Kirsten's room.
For the purpose of him just creeping.
Yeah, I wanted to creep on her while she slept.
Yeah, that's healthy.
That's what I wish I could have done to all my crushes when I was 11. Was just watch them sleep.
Well, there's still time. You have a car and everything now, Dean.
Just stay 6 feet away.
That'll be its own podcast. My no, I can't even joke.
No, it
I
won't.
can't
No.
even joke about it.
So anyway,
Maurice turns his hand into a dog head, which I once I saw that, I had the vivid memory of seeing it as a kid. It really, I don't know why, something about that I think freaked me out as a kid. Just seeing his hand turn into like a dog's head.
It's a primal image.
Yeah. To simulate the classic, my dog ate my homework, he chews up her science report.
I got really mad at that whole thing.
Yeah.
Like the after effects of the repercussions of him doing that. I mean, I thought Fred Savage was stupid to bring a mischievous monster into his girlfriend's house and leaving him alone for 10 seconds. What was he even doing during that whole thing anyway?
He's book smart. He doesn't have common sense.
Well,
he's an engineering genius, but he doesn't think about his actions.
Yeah, he's the type to use Bing instead of Google for internet searches.
It's because it's all porn. He's 12.
But the thing that got me was just like the amount of damage done to the homework when she pulled it out of the bag later on. It was clearly legible. Like, why did she get a 0 for this?
Yeah, tape that shit back up with scotch.
Yeah, right.
You got the report still.
And she's like a straight A student. You mean to tell me the teacher wouldn't have given leniency? Especially with it completed? That really pissed me off.
Yeah, because
teachers,
I mean, like,
the principals don't know their kids and their history.
Like, you can clearly see there was enough there that, like, what she wrote. So you can't make out the fact that it's like, yeah, so you wrote 4 pages here. I can make out some of it, and then you tore it up. Why then? It has to be an accident because there's no reason for her to rip it up if that's the case. I mean, and she doesn't have a dog.
So after they're done creeping, they're done creeping, but I think we just hard cut down to Monsterland, where we are introduced to
Snick.
What? I tried. You gotta believe me, Snick. I tried.
Oh, you tried, did you, Arnold? Well, you didn't try hard enough.
My knees, they hurt.
Oh, your knees hurt? Well, that's not all that's gonna hurt, Arnold. You know why? Because I'm gonna take my big thumb and I'm jamming it in your eye. Then I'm gonna take my finger and put it in the corner of your mouth and I'm gonna rip the corner of your mouth out. That's good for a laugh, isn't it?
Snick is insane.
He is swole.
He can't turn his head like Batman.
Yeah.
He's swole.
He is swole and he is on cocaine.
He's heavy around the trapezoids, and then he's like really squared off.
He did not skip shoulder, neck, head day.
He's actually really, really terrifying.
He has an intensity that does not belong in this movie.
You're scared of me, aren't you, Arnold? Oh, I like that. Oh, I love that. But you know what I like even more than that, Arnold? I like taking my two big, black, leather-gloved hands and grabbing your head and cutting it off!
He decapitates one of the child monsters, just pulls his head clean off.
Yep.
Throws it in a basket, right? Or a tray.
Yeah, I think it's in a basket. Or
lights up.
I think the receptacle is not required here. Throws it into something.
That's what I was focused on.
Also, this is the first mention of him talking about the boy gets what the boy wants or something.
Hey! Hey! Boy gets what he wants!
Yes, there's some ominous, like, there's another figure. And when I was watching it, I thought, oh, it must be like the big bad or, you know, someone important down there that we haven't been introduced to yet. The boy. He decapitates the kid, and Maurice and Fred Savage return to Monsterland for a good old-fashioned game of somewhat baseball, where, in Maurice's words,
we get the shit, we smash the shit, and then we put the shit back. It's called Monster Ball.
Well, I like how they follow the scene of Snick ripping the kid's head off while smoking a cigarette with the baseball, take the shit, smash the shit, put the shit back. Just to remind us that PG-13 exists at this point, but we're not going to take it.
I think they just went to the censors and were like, hey, we're a kid's movie. Don't worry about it. Oh, okay. guys, it's a kid's movie. We're good.
We have the voice of Gizmo. Oh, okay. Also, I haven't seen monsters play a sport like this since Space Jam.
I actually like this concept that, like, as part of their destruction or their pranks on the kids is they turn it into a game. I thought it was kind of interesting. So Ben and his friend, his 80s friend Todd, they're pontificating on where Fred had gone that night when Ben went to his bed and found that he was replaced himself with pillows. They say,
Maybe he went outside. Maybe he stepped outside to smoke a cigarette. I bet that's it.
a habit, I think, at age 11, I don't think it was too common for American kids to be smoking at 11, at least 13 or 14. And his brother, yeah, the friend Todd brings that up, and Ben Savage doesn't even blink at the idea that he was smoking.
Maybe he stepped outside to smoke a cigarette. I bet that's it. At 4 a.m?
Not that he was smoking, like, why would he do it at 4 a.m.?
Well, he's got to get up early to mess with Daniel Stern. Who then, like, shows up to remind us the real monster of this film.
Mom and I have decided that we're not gonna live together for a while.
A business trip?
No, honey, not exactly.
Eric, don't you get it? They're getting a divorce. I'll be better. I swear to God, I'll be better. Brian, too. He promises, right?
It isn't anybody's fault. It isn't anybody's fault.
But it definitely is their fault. By proxy, it's Maurice's fault, probably. I don't know. Well, maybe not. I mean, how long have the monsters been screwing with the kids? Like, Nick's right. Like, maybe the monsters have just ruined his life.
I mean, who's to say that they didn't do it to Daniel Stern when he was a kid?
That's true. Yeah, maybe it's carried over.
He's been dealing with this his entire life.
But anyway, this is some real heavy shit for the movie.
Well, then Maurice says, I'll take away the hurt. Which, to me, considering the rest of this film, no. That sounds ominous.
Manipulation.
Like, we've seen a kid get his head ripped off. We've seen his own eyeballs pop out of his head. When a monster tells me I'll take away the hurt, I'll pass. I'll deal with Daniel Stern.
I can make it all go away.
Well, then he goes right back on the road, like messing with kids.
Yeah, the next scene called... I call the next scene "Bottling Emotions" by fucking with kids.
Oh, I had it. No little monsters, you don't deserve a montage to Little Bitty Pretty One.
Little bitty pretty one, come on and talk to me.
They definitely don't deserve that.
My next note is really just, it amuses me when kids curse. Brings me back to like a simpler time when that shit slid.
Sports South Park took it mainstream.
Some of the effects in the montage were kind of creepy, like the stretched face gang around the crib.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. This is like a really dark moment when they scare a literal like infant. That Brian finally starts to realize maybe this pointless ruining of children's psyche and familial relationships isn't worth it.
Maurice, it's just a little baby.
Baby, it's our duty, man. This is a character builder. Come on, Tonto, scare the hell out of her.
Stop it! Come on, stop it!
Brian, relax, okay?
Maurice, this is cruel.
I mean, it amazes me it took him this long to finally realize, like, oh, these guys are monsters.
Monster, you call yourself monsters, you're more like straight up dickheads.
But I mean, they're a family, so it works out. It's fine.
Right. They don't have parents. They don't have rules. Like, it's the system that's to blame.
Oh,
they didn't
you call
ask
that
for this.
there and this here family? Oops.
So after that night, Charlie's pretty turned off by the whole idea.
Also, we see Todd and he's sleeping in a tree, and they make it seem like that's just a normal thing. What are all these kids going through?
Wait, was it sleeping in a tree or sleeping in a tree house or like a hammock?
Oh, I think he was in a tree house thing, but still, he was just like up sleeping in a tree house by himself at night. I mean, I didn't have a tree house as a kid.
Well, camping in the backyard.
I guess. Like, I didn't have a tree house as a kid, but like maybe if I had friends over and we did it up there, but like me by myself, I wouldn't walk into my backyard and go to sleep in the tree house.
I have a dream of being a jaguar. It starts now. At least it wasn't a public park tree. He wasn't running away from home to sleep in the tree. He's at least in his backyard. Somebody's backyard.
Brian's.
But yeah, Todd shines a flashlight on Fred Savage, and we realize he is becoming sensitive to the light somehow.
Wow! Todd, are you okay? What happened? Brian!
Is he becoming a monster? It's a big theme. Yes, he is becoming a monster. We just found that out.
Well, that's why Little Monsters opened with the, was it the Nietzsche quote of gazing into the abyss and becoming a monster, whatever it is?
I am become dead.
Little different there.
His subconscious aspirations were much greater than Little Monster World could ever have imagined.
So I mean, at this point, like, he realized he's falling apart, literally, emotionally, and physically.
Right. It's being physically represented in the real world now. Then we see Maurice talking with Snick, and it seems like Maurice was supposed to bring in Fred Savage to make him into a monster to become some kind of plaything for the as yet to be seen boy or like mysterious monster that lives down there. that Snick works for it. He's the muscle for.
We almost had him. He was becoming one of us. He knows our secrets, Maurice.
He's harmless. I'll tell you. You know what? Let's leave him alone. We'll just leave him alone and
You just don't get it, Maurice. Sometimes boy gets a little lonely. He wanted to play with him.
Why doesn't he just play with himself?
Also, I like how they do the "I've got a hunch" gag with Snick.
What happens when boy doesn't get what he wants?
I don't know. I have a hunch.
Hunch? Is that my hunch you're talking about, Maurice?
Oh, no. I take it back.
Back? No, hunch back!
So Maurice, so we realized it's like, is it a betrayal? Like, it seems like he was contracted to do this, but there wasn't any real evidence until this scene that he was trying to turn Fred Savage into a monster.
I really feel like it's not a case of he's just too nice a monster. I think it's really he's just inept at his job.
Yeah.
I would trust it more that it's like, no, he's been trying to do this since day one, and he is just terrible.
He's really bad. I made a best friend instead of a monster.
Yeah.
So Snick, since he's so inept at his job, Snick takes matters into his own hands and kidnaps little Ben Savage.
He gets taken.
Steals him right from his bed. I need to hire Liam Neeson to help him at this point.
I would watch that. Can we crowdfund that as the sequel? I want to find more about these portals, and I want to see Liam Neeson just physically take apart a monster.
You're about to be taken by a hunchback man.
By who? Have you ever seen The Burbs?
Or Scary Movie, the first one, the good one. So then we're treated to a getting the gang together. All of the sub characters we've met up to this point band together, and Kirsten, his crush, his science genius crush, brought into the fray. Brian's engineering comes back into play because they start to make high-powered lights because the monsters absolutely hate any kind of light. So they're pulling out the 500 watts to light these sons of bitches up.
Like, how is this kid not working for NASA or something?
Today he should have been. That'll be part of the sequel. Maybe there's like alien monsters. It's not just another dimension. They're like...
They come out from under moon rocks.
Yeah. If we put a bed on the moon, do the monsters come out there too?
Considering the rest of this movie earlier and with all the Snick stuff, I really thought Todd was going to be the red shirt of the group. Because he's just like, I'm on board. Let's go get our friend back. And it's like, oh, buddy.
Fodder for the...
yeah.
For the boy.
Snick just puts him on like Hulk boxing gloves and goes after him.
Rips his head off. So we get the Monsterland showdown. Kids arrive in Monsterland. They're not even attacked, I don't think. They just start straight up murdering monsters.
Oh, yeah, they just drop in and murder.
To be fair, you're a kid, you just found out monsters are real, you're seeing them, and you know that light hurts them. I guess, you're just going to start shooting at that point.
Well, it's a little weird considering, like, after, like, we'll get to it, but after the big fight ends and whatnot, all the monsters are cheering because it's like, oh my God, thank you for helping us out there. So that means they dropped in and immediately started frying all of the people who are the oppressed citizens of Monsterville.
I never thought any of their weapons actually hurt the monsters.
Oh, it just like the ghosts in Mario, they just make them
retreat. I
still.
felt it was like a vampire thing, like direct sunlight might actually kill them, but overall, if it's just a flashlight, I think it just turns them into clothes.
We don't know how much pain it inflicts.
Yeah, but what if they use the flashlight and turn them into clothes and then Buzz wears those clothes?
He would have to be lit.
He just like puts on the outfit.
Well, no, and then they can control him, and then Buzz would just become like a puppet.
I thought he would just wear them like an Iron Man suit.
But they have control of the clothes, so then he would just be
that's true.
A puppet in an Iron Man suit.
Or would it be like a Transformer situation where, you know, if people are inside the car and then it transforms, are they getting smushed to pieces? Like if the monster comes back, does Buzz explode? I don't know. Well, something to think about. So yeah, they come down. The guns ablazing in the form of flashlights. They finally descend the ominous, spooky staircase to the infamous boy, quote unquote, king of Monsterland, I presume.
Oh, you mean Tom Riddle?
I realized I saw the guy. So boy is played by Frank Whaley, who I've only seen in a couple things. He's more like been a small character actor from what I've remembered seeing him in.
I mean, he was in Swimming with Sharks. He was on, I think it was Luke Cage on Netflix.
Yes, right.
He's one of those people that it's just like he pops up everywhere.
Exactly, yeah. I saw him in the movie Swing Kids.
Oh, yeah.
With Christian Bale as well. But yeah, so he plays this creepy, humanoid monster. Just seems kind of like a shut-in kid, creepy kid, but a man with lots of toys and giving off very, again, more pedophile vibes.
Brian, let's make a deal. It's your wits and grace that I desire, not those of your pugnacious chum or even your silly mute little girlfriend. I'll let them all go. And your brother, if you'll stay and be my pal.
No deals.
Very well.
I mean, I took it as he was probably a kid that found the place, or like one of the kids that got taken and was there long enough he became a monster and then just ran that shit.
Right. It makes you wonder the whole history. Like, was everybody in there a kid once? Who's the OG monster,
Unless he is the OG monster.
Right. So that's what I was taking it as. But he's very non-hideous, at least at first.
At first.
At first.
Well, also I like leading up to his his throne room or whatever it is, they do the scene of all of the monsters walking out of different places with baseball bats. I was thinking like the Warriors baseball Furies, and I think, oh, it's going to be a rumble. And then they just get to the door and go inside, and it's like, oh, so I guess they'll wait outside?
Maybe they're just trying to set the, don't try anything because we've got baseball bats and rocket launchers and saw blades and explosions. It's like a really Satan and Joker's house of happy horrors or something inside there.
The Joker thing, like the boy, his throne room, and him himself, gave me very big Batman villain vibes.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Which, pull him out, drop him into Batman, he'd be amazing. I mean, he's like Doll Man meets Toy Man.
Yeah, you could definitely see.
There's a lot of men in that. I just realized
Superman,
I ran a couple through my head, and it's like,
Man.
yeah, all of them are just Batman villains. They just ended man. Doll Man, Toy Man.
Scarecrow Man.
Joker Man. Jokerman. Of the Westchester Jokermans.
The gang unleashes their lights on quote unquote boy, and we realize that boy, for all intents and purposes, like a Hannibal type. He's wearing skin or some other face, because we see a reverse shot and it looks like it's just kind of stretched over his head. You see grotesque.
It's disturbing.
Muscly, yeah, it's disturbing. Good summation. And that face becomes removed, and it again, talk about a kid's movie. It's absolutely terrifying.
Well, the teddy bear with the drill that was drilling somebody's leg.
Yeah. There's some Puppet Master vibes in the scene,
Yeah, it was very demonic toys.
They kind of lose their first encounter. They have to regroup. They're locked in a
trash compactor
type area, like from Star Wars. I thought of that myself. Tim didn't bring that up.
I'm proud of you.
You raised me well, Nick.
Kirsten wastes zero time MacGyvering a light from like pencils and an old crank telephone or something.
You know,
I don't know how
she was close. Like her whole concept was like it can work, but him holding it like that, I've seen pencils used as a conductive. He would have burned his hands so fast. Like I'm pretty sure they ignite on fire. That's how hot they get.
And they escape, but at what cost? He just has like 2 charcoal hands.
I think because he's part monster now.
Yeah, Maurice is down there. So we see Maurice, and there's no real talk about how there was any kind of betrayal or anything. So that's just kind of brushed under the rug, I guess.
Kids are gullible.
They learn that they will become monsters if they don't get out by sunrise. They will be trapped there forever and become Boy's slave or somebody's slave, probably. I don't know. So they learn that information. They're like, we gotta get out of here. So they lose their light. They go into Monsterland with these high power lights. They lose their lights in this first encounter with Snick and Boy. So they decide to rob Buzz. They go to his house and like steal a bunch of shit to go back and kill Boy and Snick. Now they got more lights. And then Buzz shows up. He must have followed them after they went and stole everything from his house. Again, water under the bridge. You know, piss in the apple juice. Steal things from my house. It's fine. I'm just here to kick the shit out of monsters. Buzz shows up. He's
got a purpose.
Now friends. He's part of the crew.
Like I'm beginning to think Buzz wasn't a bad guy from the beginning, if that's the case. Like he got the stuff thrown on him at the bus stop, then he got humiliated and got laughed at. He tried to start the fight. But I mean, now he's just like, no, I'm on board. Like, gotta save your brother. Let's go do this.
He's a ride or die. Yeah, because he was hit with the lunch bag, which who wouldn't be upset about that, and at least go talk to the person you think did it. And he never punched anybody. He just kind of wrestled Fred Savage a little bit. There was no hitting. Yeah, I see your point. But he's part of the group now, so I guess he's their muscle. He's the Snick of the group. He's large.
Well, I figured in that scene where he rips that kid's head off.
Right.
As he's drinking the rest of that bottle of piss.
He's smaller than Snick, but his breath is much worse. They return for round 2 to go toe-to-toe with Boy and Snick.
Well, they don't even really go toe-to-toe. They just kind of like, why, if they burst back in for fight number 2, they just kind of stand there and let them. It's like, no, let's hear him out.
Yeah, they make quick work of there's not really a fight this time. It's just like, no, we're back with lights. Yeah,
they just flip it and it just immediately blows them up.
Snick's like, shit,
Well, I like how Snick then pulls himself back together like the Wolfman at the end of Monster Squad. It's just like all of a sudden all the parts start going back in and forming.
Right.
Before Maurice comes out and just John Carpenter the things him to death when he breaks out the flamethrower.
Hey, Snick! How about a light, bud?
They didn't really get any good licks in on the kids. It's just...
Yeah, I would have hoped for at least one of them to get lost.
I think the runtime was getting too long and they had to wrap it.
Yeah, maybe. Just like, we don't know how to end this shit.
Todd's death is in the alternate takes.
Maurice is using like a flamethrower. Wouldn't that have killed him too from the light?
I mean, unless it presents the question of they can only get hurt by artificial light or the sun. But seems...
he was the one using the light.
The sun is just a ball of fire.
Yeah.
Burning hydrogen. Yeah, well, there's a lot of flawed logic here in this movie.
Tip of the iceberg.
But they dispatch... they did...
Don't gaze into that pool too long, Dean.
They easily dispatch of Snick and Boy this time around, and now the peril is to get out before sunrise because they've been there all night killing monsters. So they get back, they get to the portal, closest portal, and they're too late.
It's too late.
What's that supposed to mean? It means we've dissected our last frog. We're stuck. We're monsters.
Yeah, I like how they try it, they can't get out because it's daylight, so it's locked, and then Buzz is immediately like,
Well, I can handle that.
he's just quick to be on board, come down, help his friends. Buzz,
So
I'm sorry, you'll never
positive.
see your family, you're a monster now. Okay, just how the dice rolls.
The cards were dealt, you know?
Yeah, you guys got any
lemons and lemonade and all that jazz.
Maybe a little early for lemonade with Buzz.
Yeah, he's actually the kind of kid, he's probably the best role model in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, granted, he did attack a kid, but it wasn't that bad, and, you know, it's... I don't know.
I mean, maybe
He's the
Todd
most
is.
positive.
Todd's been positive. He wants to help his friend.
I don't know. He thinks everybody's a smoker, though, for no good reason.
That's true. Buzz is just here for the ultra violence.
So, yeah, they're locked out. They can't get back home. But they remember that the world is round.
It has time zones.
It has time zones. And maybe space is just a construct somewhat, because they still have to. So they decide they're going to run to the next time zone where the sun has not risen yet. So,
Whoa! Sun's up in St. Louis, bud.
Oh, no.
Phoenix! Where's Phoenix?
Huh? Phoenix? Not away.
Attaway. Come on, kid.
I think it's funny how it took them over 4 hours to get
Exactly.
to the West Coast. I didn't really get that.
Because it's like they're running and it's, check this one. It's already sun now. Okay, check this one. They're running. So that means they had to have been running for like hours. They would have had to run like 3 hours to beat it to the West Coast.
yeah, I guess it's one of those, like, where you start to question the logic of, like, time travel movies. It's like, well, like Inception, like, are they down there? How does time work? Obviously, they can run coast to coast in a matter of, you know, whatever amount of time.
An example of plot device being the ultimate killer.
Yes, more bad writing.
Because I mean, if it's taking them only like minutes to run across all that distance, then why not just run all the way to the West
straight
Coast?
to LA?
Yeah, and then just be like, good, we're gonna be sure, and then just go.
Guys, LA was right next to the portal to Boston. Why didn't we just do that? So yeah, they end up at the Los Angeles bed, and when you know it, they come out underneath a hobo sleeping on the beach, which goes back to my point of anything you sleep on can potentially become a bed. He must be on a cot, or I don't know. They didn't really show what he's sleeping on.
Yeah, I thought it was just like a bench.
Really awkwardly coming out from underneath him. It hides where the portal really is. The kids come out on the beach on the Pacific Ocean in LA.
Well, except Brian. Brian like hangs back to have this touching farewell with Maurice and like
yes.
do their big handshake and.
But you belong up there. Come on.
I'm gonna miss you, Maurice. I really am.
Let's go, Brian. The sun's coming up.
There's no way I'm running to Hawaii.
It's like, bud, you can come back tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the big point. Again, more writing for the sake of we just want this moment in here.
Unless what we don't see is Brian immediately goes to the feds and blows the whistle on this whole operation, and they go down in hazmat suits and just flamethrower the whole monster village.
Holy shit, we gotta get rid of these guys.
I would watch it.
Yeah, man. We gotta develop sequels to all these movies. Yeah, the heartfelt goodbye, even though, hey, why don't I just see it tomorrow night when you come out from under my bed again?
Yeah.
Or maybe there's like a reformation. Now that Boy's gone, they're not going to scare kids anymore. They're going to close off contact with the humans. I don't know. Yeah, there's no reason for a heartfelt goodbye when you can just see him again in 12 hours.
Not to mention, it'll be a lot easier for them to go back to the East Coast, too. So instead of saying, "Hey, Mom, I'm in Malibu right now. Can you come pick me up?" The financial burden of their already, stricken parents trying to get their kids all the way from across the country back to get home.
Yeah.
Right.
I would have just waited one more day.
Yeah, that would have made the most sense.
Where did they call from? I forget.
A payphone.
It was like
I
a
thought.
gas station?
No, a payphone in Malibu, like right on the beach.
Yeah.
Payphone.
Well, also, like, they announced, like, "Oh, where are you guys?" It's like, "Oh, we're in Malibu." And I like how Daniel Stern is, like, there, which, great, tragedy brings the family back together. But, like, so Daniel Stern is there, and he's just like, "Oh, Malibu, oh." And he takes that better than the Doritos being on the ground. Like, he was ready to belt that kid. But this is, "Oh, you guys left and went to Malibu? Okay."
And even the mom's like, "How'd they get to California?
Did you use my credit card?" Yeah, the reactions are very unbalanced.
Well, I mean, we get a Talking Heads outro, so
that's not all bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, credits roll. Kids stay on the West Coast. They start the Crips, and they live happily ever after.
Buzz still kept his flamethrower.
Yeah, you have to try to figure out a way to monetize the monster world. That would be my
transportation.
thing.
Airlines would go out of business.
Holy shit! Yeah, you could charge an arm and a leg too because it's instantaneous.
Just like end of your night, it's like, okay, I'm all packed. Just hop onto your bed and then pop back up in L.A.
Under a hobo on the beach.
Under a hobo.
Sorry, it's you didn't pay for first class. Yeah. So, yep, that's the joke at the end. Like, we're in Malibu. Hoo-hoo. Roll credits, and we're out of Little Monsters forever, for good, for the best.
Guys, what are your thoughts?
This is only a movie for kids.
Is it though?
You have to
But not
turn
really.
you have to turn off your brain and just watch it and take everything at face value. Don't try to. Because
I feel like it was a bit too much for kids, but not enough for adults. So it's a movie for no one.
Well, as a kid, like, so much of it goes over your head. You're just enjoying it for what it is.
Yeah, at this point, it's just like monsters doing funny things for the kids. But the adult jokes are not subtle at all. And the adult aspects are just, it doesn't go hand in hand.
Like, I mean, overall, the effects were fun. There was creepy stuff to some of the monsters. I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it. If they took Maurice out of this, I would have liked it much better.
That's
it would have
the
been
whole
much.
Tim, that's like saying, let's just take Beetlejuice out of the movie. Except he was good. But in this case, like, that kind of, you kind of don't have a movie anymore.
I mean, what if they just cast anybody else as
right?
Maurice?
If they actually had Robin Williams play this part, he probably could have improv things that were funny.
Or instead of making him like manic and crazy, just like anything else. What if they just had like
just cool, like
Billy
too
Crystal
cool for school? Yeah, Billy Crystal. Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing. Actually, again, yeah, like I guess Howie was a comedian or was kind of a comedian, but
kinda. I mean, he had Bobby's World.
Just so many, yeah. Again, whatever, budget and everything. Wikipedia said this movie's budget was $7 million.
What if it was Bill Murray? No, actually, Chevy Chase in the 80s.
Chevy Chase in the 80s. Well, Chevy Chase when he's wrangled is good. Yeah.
Got like fletched Chevy Chase coming out of that bed.
He would have been he would like obviously just a good asshole. It would that much more entertaining than a manic guy who doesn't say anything of import or comedy.
Yeah,
but we don't have to watch it again. Except I might go back and just to figure out what the hell some of my notes were referring to, so I don't go crazy.
Oh, I thought you were going to show it to your kids.
We should make long days of these, like where we watch the movie in the morning and we do the podcast at night. So it's fresh in the mind.
I mean, that was the goal.
Listen, we're everybody listening, we're figuring this out as we go, and it'll get better. We promise.
So that's
don't turn us off yet.
So that's episode 3 of Screen Refresh. I think overall it sounds like we've had mixed feelings on Little Monsters, but it wasn't bad. I just think I might be all set watching it once for a while. And join us next time for whatever episode we figure out after this, because we got a bunch on there. And although actually Nick who chose Surf Ninjas?
I did.
And then Dean chose Little Monsters, so that means I'm at bat.
You're up.
So hold on to your butts. You're going to get some weird stuff going on soon.
Looking forward to it. I hope it involves butts.